Hey everybody, welcome to Board Online, Board Offline. Today we're going to teach you how to play Colt Express, and we're using the 10th anniversary edition to teach you. Now, Colt Express is a game for 2 to 6 players, ages 10 plus, and runs around 40 minutes. So let's get right into it. First, you'll need to take the locomotive, as well as one train car per player, and connect them in the play area. We'll say we're setting up for a 3-player game, and so it might look something like this. The farthest car from the locomotive is considered the caboose. Set aside a $250 purse token per player, and then place loot tokens in the train cars based on these symbols right here. It's a little hard to see on the camera. Let's see if we go this way, maybe you can see a little better. Right there you can see it says 4 purses and 1 gem. Purses should always be taken at random and placed face down, since they do have varying amounts of money that they're worth. The jewels are all worth 500, and the briefcase is worth 1,000 and is always placed up here in the locomotive. The briefcase is known as a strongbox. The marshal is placed in the locomotive with the strongbox. Place the 13 neutral bullet cards in a pile next to the locomotive. Each player chooses a character and takes the corresponding character sheet, places it in front of them. Each player takes one of these set-aside $250 coin purses and places it on their character sheet. Any coin purse on the character sheet should be kept face down. Each player takes their 10 action cards in their player color, shuffles them up, and places it face down on their character sheet in the appropriate spot. They then take their 6 bullet cards in their color and place them face up in the appropriate spot. Find the round cards and look and see the player count here. In this case, these are for a 5 to 6 player game, while these are for a 2 to 4 player game. So we'll take these. Take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at random, discard the rest, back to the box. And this is the round deck. Next, we'll take the bandits corresponding with the colors chosen by the players, randomly choose one, in this case the white bandit, and this will be the first player for the first round. Starting with the first player and then going around in clockwise order, players will take turns placing their character either in the caboose or the car next to the caboose. And that's the setup. In a game of Colt Express, there are 5 rounds, and each round has 2 phases: the Schemin Phase and the Stealin Phase. To begin the Schemin Phase, the first player draws the top card of the event deck. To begin the Schemin Phase, the first player draws the top card of the round deck and places it on the table in view of everyone. Round card indicates the number of turns and the type of turns according to these boxes across the top. Next, each player draws 6 cards. These cards form their hand. Now, starting with the first player, each player takes their turn, followed by the next player in clockwise order. On their turn, each player must do one of the following. They can play one of their action cards face up to the top of the pile, or they can draw 3 cards from their deck to add them to their hand. The Schemin Phase ends when the number of turns indicated on this card has been completed. At that point, any unplayed cards left in the player's hand are placed on top of the deck. Let's take a look at what the different boxes on the round cards might mean. An empty box like this, as you see 4 times on this round card, simply means you play an action card from your hand to the top of the pile as normal. It's a completely standard turn. This box indicates a tunnel, meaning that rather than playing a card face up from your hand to the pile, you'll place it face down. This connected box indicates speeding up, meaning players will take 2 turns in a row, which means they can either play a card face up to the pile and then do so again, or they can play a card face up to the pile and then draw 3 cards, or they can draw 3 cards and play a card face up to the pile, or draw 3 cards twice. Whatever combination of those they wish to do. This icon indicates switching. Players will take their turns in counterclockwise order, starting with the first player for this particular turn. So before we take a look at what each action card can do, it's important to realize that a bandit can be inside of a car or on top of a car. The move card has two different effects depending on if the bandit is inside or on the roof. If the bandit is on the roof, they can move anywhere from 1 to 3 cars using a move card. If a bandit is inside of a car, they can move to an adjacent car. This card is called Change Floor and allows the bandit to move to whatever floor they're not currently on. So from the inside to the roof or from the roof to the inside. The Shoot card allows you to take the top bullet card from your deck and place it in another player's action deck. You can never shoot a bandit that is in your space, but if you're on the roof, you can shoot any bandit who is in your line of sight regardless of the distance. A bandit is in your line of sight if they are on the roof of a car and there is no other bandit between you. If there's more than one bandit on the roof of the same car, then you choose which one to shoot. If you are inside a car, then you can only shoot a bandit that is adjacent to your car. Again, it's very important to remember you cannot shoot a bandit in the same car as you or the same space as you. If, when the Shoot card comes up, there's no target for you to shoot, you do not spend the bullet card, you keep it on the top of your cylinder deck. Also, if you run out of bullet cards and you've spent your final one, then the Shoot card will have no more effect for you as well. The Rob card allows you to take one loot token from your space without looking at its value. Now, in the case of these jewels, we know they're all worth 500, so I could take any of these and it wouldn't matter. And I'd place it on my player board. Of course, with the bags of loot, you don't know how much each is worth, so you take one at random. If you are on the roof of a car, you cannot rob the inside. And that, of course, goes the same if you're inside a car, you cannot rob the roof. If there's no loot to take, the rob action has no effect. The punch action allows you to punch another bandit in your space. When you punch a bandit, that chosen bandit will lose one loot and drop it in your space. The bandit dropping the loot gets to choose which loot they're dropping, but the other bandits don't get to see how much it was worth. Then the player who punched the bandit gets to move that bandit to the same floor of an adjacent car. The final possible action is the Marshal action. This allows you to move the Marshal inside of an adjacent car. Anytime a bandit enters the Marshal space or the Marshal enters a bandit space, the bandit will escape to the roof of the car immediately. So if the Marshal moves here, this bandit will escape to the roof. A bandit can never stay inside the car where the Marshal is located. Additionally, this escaping bandit takes a neutral bullet card into their deck. Anytime a bullet card is taken, it's always placed on top of the deck face down. If you ever get to the point where, let's say there was only a single neutral bullet left and there were 2 bandits escaping from the Marshal, then no bandit would take a bullet in that particular instance. The Marshal will never go up on the roof. So let's say this is the situation. We have this round card. We're in phase 1 of this round, and the white bandit is going to be first player, followed by the red bandit, followed by the black bandit. It might go something like this. The first card is going to be played face up. The white bandit places this card here. The red bandit plays the Marshal card. The black bandit also plays the Marshal card. Then the white bandit plays a face down card because we have the tunnel. The red bandit does the same, and the black bandit does the same. Then we have a white bandit playing a punch card, the red bandit with a shoot, and the black bandit with a loot or steal. And then finally, the white bandit plays a shoot card, red bandit plays a steal card, and the black bandit plays a change floor card. We enter phase 2, the Stealin Phase. The first player takes this pile of cards and flips it over without changing anything about it. They'll now reveal one by one the cards in the pile. So the white bandit is going to move down. Then the red bandit can move the marshal. The only place where the marshal move is here, which means the white bandit takes a bullet card from the marshal and then runs back to the top. The black bandit also is going to move the marshal, but they're just going to move them back here because they wouldn't want to move them here since they'd be getting themselves shot. The white bandit is now going to move down again. The red bandit shot at the white bandit, but of course the white bandit is no longer there, and so they completely miss. They don't spend a bullet, but the card is wasted. The black bandit throws a punch. There's nobody in there. And now we have the white bandit throwing a punch at nobody. The red bandit shooting at nobody again. The black bandit now is going to steal one of these bags. They can look at it, and they'll see that they have $250, but it goes face down on their player sheet. The white bandit is going to shoot at the black bandit, which means the black bandit will take one of their bullet cards, one of the white bandit's bullet cards, and place it on top of their action deck. The red bandit is going to steal, but they are on top of the car, and so they can't steal anything up there. And finally, the black bandit is going to climb up here. And that would be an entire round. Now, you saw a couple of bullet cards get handed out. The whole point of the bullet cards is that when they end up in your hand, they're essentially just taking up room, and there's nothing you can do with them. All actions are mandatory. If they can be resolved, they must be. Once all actions have been resolved, all the cards are given back to the players to whom they belong, and then all cards for that player are shuffled into their action deck. The player to the left of the first player will then take the round deck and reveal the new card for the new round. And they are now the first player. The game ends at the end of the 5th round. Each player will then add up all their loot tokens, and the player with the most loot wins. However, don't forget the Gunslinger prize. This is awarded to the player who shot the most bullets. In other words, the player who has the fewest bullets left on their player sheet. That player receives $1,000. The richest player wins the game, and in case of a tie, the player who received the fewest bullet cards wins. In the case of a further tie, the tied players share the victory. Now, every character does have their own character power, which is detailed on page 8. And there are also advanced rules found here on page 9 for the events. As you can see on an event, besides these slots indicating how the cards are played, you also have this icon indicating a type of event, and you can use those for advanced play if you wish. There are also 2-player rules found on page 10, and an expert variant found on page 11. Thank you so much for watching How to Play Colt Express. Hope this video was useful. If it was, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel, share with all your friends, all of that great stuff. Come back, as our next video will be the continuation of our How to Play Dungeon Universalis series, and then the video after that will continue How to Play Kingdom Death Monsters Gambler's Chest expansion. And until next time, if you're bored online, board offline.